There is a question that haunts many of us in the quiet moments, usually when we are staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., unable to sleep. How do some people actually live the life they dream of? How do they find peace when the world feels like it is on fire? The answer I found is not sexy. It is not a hack you can find in a 15-second TikTok video. The answer is simply this: you have to be the kind of person who knows how to make a demand of yourself. If you cannot handle the discomfort of self-discipline, you will inevitably have to handle the much deeper, sharper pain of regret. We often think of discipline as a punishment, like a strict teacher scolding a child. But I want you to shift that perspective tonight. Discipline is actually the highest form of self-love. It is ignoring current pleasures for bigger rewards to come. Think about your future. It is not some distant land. It is hiding in your morning routine. A magnificent life does not wait for the person who wastes their energy doom scrolling until their eyes burn. Success, inner peace, and clarity are rarely found by those who hit the snooze button 5 times. You might discover that the universe has a secret reward system, and it pays out dividends to those who possess the grit to rise while the rest of the world is dreaming. I completely agree with the sentiment that we need to start living, not just existing. We have all been there. You are watching a series on Netflix. One episode ends. The cliffhanger hits. You know you have work tomorrow. You know you are exhausted. But a voice in your head whispers, just one more. Just 10 more minutes. Suddenly, it is 2 or 3 in the morning. You are not even enjoying it anymore. You are just numb. On the other side of the spectrum, there are the early risers. They wake up to a different world. A healthy breakfast, a moment of silence, a few pages of a book, or a workout that floods the brain with dopamine. They start the day with a victory. They have earned the right to feel good before 8 a.m. I remember bumping into an old mentor of mine recently. It had been years since I sat in her classroom. Her hair had turned completely silver, yet her skin had this undeniable glow. She looked sharp, vibrant, and incredibly youthful. Most people her age were slowing down, shrinking into their armchairs, watching cable news, and complaining about the state of the world. But not her. Her mind was fresh. Her perspective was deep. She felt peaceful. I asked her, "What is the secret? You seem timeless." She smiled and told me that despite her age, one habit had never changed. She wakes up every single day at 6 a.m. She said that after a light breakfast, she takes a book out to her balcony. She sits there, breathing in the cool, crisp air, that specific smell of dawn before the traffic starts. No noise. No notifications, just the birds and the wind. In those quiet hours, her heart settles. Her thinking becomes crystal clear. By the time the rest of the city wakes up, she has already lived a full day of intellectual and spiritual fulfillment. Staying up late often degrades the quality of our lives, while waking up early elevates the stature of our souls. The morning is the ultimate litmus test for a purposeful life. Let us do the math, and I promise this changes everything. We all have the same 24 hours. But if you wake up just 1 hour earlier than you usually do, that gives you 30 extra hours in a month. That is more than a whole day of pure, uninterrupted time. If you keep that up for a year, you gain 360 hours. That is 15 entire days of conscious life that your competition slept through. While others are lost in dreams, you could be reading the book that changes your career. You could be tidying your space so your mind feels uncluttered. You could just sit with a cup of coffee and watch the sun come up, feeling gratitude instead of anxiety. When you are constantly rushing, chasing the clock, you are a slave to time. But when you wake up early, you become the master of time. You set the rhythm. You dictate the pace. It is true that no one can stop the physical process of aging. We all get wrinkles. We all slow down. But those who maintain the discipline of the morning seem to age differently. They evolve rather than decay. Those who stay up late never get to smell the specific scent of wisdom that hangs in the morning air. But the early risers, they carry the scent of clarity with them all day long. I have always admired a specific type of person. The kind of person who, no matter what chaos is happening in their life, keeps their rhythm. When it is time to sleep, they sleep. When it is time to rise, they rise. No hesitation. No bargaining with the alarm clock. There is a profound quote that hits me hard every time I think about it. Staying up late is often because you do not have the courage to end the day. And sleeping in is often because you do not have the passion to start the new one. Think about that. The revenge bedtime procrastination we do. It is because we feel we lost control of our day, so we try to steal back time at night. But it is garbage time and hitting snooze. That is your subconscious saying, I have nothing worth waking up for. I want to share a story about a business trip I took a few years ago with a senior colleague. We were pitching a huge project to another company. It went terribly. They hated our proposal. The meeting ended with awkward handshakes and cold stares. That night, I was a wreck. I lay in my hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake in my head. I blamed myself. I felt like an imposter. I spiraled into anxiety and could not shut my brain off. I finally fell asleep from sheer exhaustion in the early hours of the morning. When I woke up, the sun was already blazing. I felt heavy, groggy, and filled with dread about facing the fallout of the failed meeting. I dragged myself out of bed, feeling like a failure. Then, my phone rang. It was my colleague. He sounded chirpy, almost energetic. Hey, meet me downstairs for breakfast, he said. When I got there, I expected him to be as miserable as I was. Instead, he looked fresh. He was finishing a plate of eggs and reading the paper. He saw my face, puffy eyes, slumped shoulders, and he told me something that I have carried with me ever since. He looked me in the eye and said, "You have to conquer the morning before you can conquer your life." I later found out that while I was still buried under my duvet, hiding from the world, my colleague had been up since dawn. He had gone for a long run around the city. While his feet hit the pavement, the adrenaline cleared the fog in his brain. Somewhere around mile 2, a solution for the client's problem just clicked into place. He didn't stress. He just moved. By the time we met for breakfast, he had already emailed the client a revised proposal. And here is the kicker. The client loved it. They didn't just agree to the new terms. They signed a long-term partnership. After the trip, he told me something that shifted my entire perspective on failure. He said, "The night is just history. Don't overthink it. When the sun comes up, you have to get up. The pivot point of your entire life isn't 5 years from now. It is right now, the second your feet touch the floor." Life is inherently difficult. It is messy. If we let every little rejection or failure knock us out of rhythm, how are we ever going to build anything substantial? Sleep restores your body, but waking up early restores your spirit. If you lay in bed letting anxiety rot your ambition, you are essentially extinguishing your own fire. People with extraordinary willpower understand a simple truth. Dwelling on the past solves nothing. The only time you can actually influence is the moment you open your eyes. The sweetness of life belongs to those who suffer through the bitter parts, but still have the discipline to show up the next day. This reminds me of a guy in my neighborhood named Dan. Every time I see Dan, I am struck by this intense, calm energy he radiates. But it wasn't always like that. A few years ago, Dan hit rock bottom. I mean, the kind of rock bottom that you don't talk about at parties. He was a ride-share driver, and a bad accident crushed his leg, leaving him unable to drive or work for months. The financial stress cracked the foundation of his marriage. His wife filed for divorce after 20 years, and he lost custody of his 2-year-old son. He was isolated, broke, and physically broken. The silence in his apartment was deafening. One morning, around 4 a.m., he decided he was done. He couldn't take the pain anymore. He walked out of his apartment, limping into the dark, aiming for a bridge at the edge of town to end his story. As he was walking down the empty street, lost in the darkest thoughts imaginable, he passed an older man jogging. This stranger, sweating and breathing hard in the cold morning air, looked Dan right in the eye and gave him a massive, genuine smile. A simple good morning as he ran past. Dan kept walking, confused. A few blocks later, he passed a food cart setting up for the morning rush. The vendor saw him coming. Even though he wasn't open yet, he waved. The smell of fresh coffee and warm pastries drifted out into the street. The steam was rising from the cart, swirling in the streetlight like magic. Something about that sensory experience, the smell of the coffee, the steam, the unexpected kindness of strangers at an hour when the rest of the world was unconscious, snapped Dan out of his trance. He realized that this specific feeling was the flavor of life. He suddenly felt a desperate hunger to live. He wanted to start over. He bought a hot coffee and a bagel, sat on a curb, and just watched the city wake up. That simple breakfast, surrounded by the quiet hum of the morning, made him realize that no obstacle was permanent. The world was still beautiful, and he was still part of it. Now, whenever I see Dan, he spreads that same optimism. He tells me that the morning is the time for regeneration. It is a daily resurrection. Sometimes our careers stall, our relationships crumble, and the details of life drag us down. But that is just the nature of things. Everything is temporary. Being depressed about it changes nothing. We don't live for the approval of others. We live so that our own souls can feel at peace. The morning is always there, waiting to greet you. Once you realize this, you stop wasting these precious hours. The immense beauty of existence is hiding in plain sight, in a fried egg, in a warm cup of oats, in the way the light hits your kitchen table. The confidence you think you lost is just sleeping. You just need to get out of bed to wake it up. There is an old saying that time is gold. But in our modern economy, morning time is more valuable than gold. It is platinum. We live in a society designed to distract us. The pressure of the 9 to 5, the infinite scroll of social media, the binge-watching culture, it all trains us to stay up late and sacrifice our mornings. We trade our peace for pixels. But look at the people you admire, the underdogs who made it. They know that to build something real, you need preparation. Waking up early is the foundational habit of success. It is where you find the joy of simply being alive before the demands of the world weigh you down. You meet a better version of yourself in the quiet hours. So, here is my question to you. What are you going to do tomorrow? Will you hit snooze and drag yourself into the day, already behind? Or will you rise with the sun and claim the peace that is rightfully yours? The morning is offering you a clean slate. All you have to do is take it. Thank you for letting me share this space with you tonight. I'm rooting for you.